Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to Court of the Rings on twitch.tv/LotraStream. I'm your community manager, Cordovan, and I'll be with you for the next hour. Going to be doing some gameplay a little bit later on, and we'll have a little bit of news up front. And otherwise, we're kicking off toward the weekend. Hope you are having a good start to your weekend, perhaps, if you're over in Europe or whatever. Otherwise, you're probably hard at work, like I am, like we are today. And appreciate everyone being here. Uh, we had a pretty busy week on Bull Roar this week. That's probably one of the biggest pieces of news. The main things that we were able to debut on Bull Roar this week was the River Hobbits and Lindleby Housing. Now, I'm not going to show both of those on Bull Roar here today. River Hobbits because it's a fairly early preview, and Lindleby Housing because we already had a whole bunch of previewing of Lindleby Housing in recent weeks. But if you haven't seen it yet, go over to youtube.com/Lord of the Rings, and you can see Scenario's preview of Lindleby Housing. And we're hard at work on getting ready to release Update 37. Before that, though, I just wanted to mention that we're working toward a patch next week. That would be Update 36.2, roughly set for Wednesday, and we have another big thing happening on Wednesday as well, which I'll talk about in a second. That being the updated Lotro store is expected to hit on Wednesday. But we do have a patch for that extensive downtime as well, which is another bit of news that will get published later today, and I'll tell you a little bit about on the live stream. I like to usually put the notes up ahead of time when I can for this show, kind of give you a little bit of a sneak peek heads up as to what you might see next week, but I'm going to have to be verbal only this time. And the reason is we have a bunch of check-ins for the patch happening this weekend, and due to a localization person taking a few days off next week, I needed to get, I guess what you might call pre-patch patch notes put into the document. These are things that aren't actually in the build yet, but we think will probably, maybe, hopefully be in the build, but we're not sure if it's all going to clear QA and get checked in and all the rest. So I can't really just put the page up because the odds of it being incorrect are literally 100%. I just don't want to put something on the air that I know is not going to be true. So what I've done is I separated out the notes on an internal document for what I know is going to be in the build, and then there's a whole other section of what may or may not be in the build, and so I'm just going to go over some of the notes here verbally today rather than put it up on the screen. Probably one of the most important bits of news for Update 36.2 is that we're fixing an issue where delving mission quests on Tier 8 are counting toward the weekly delving quest Delve Deepest Weekly, and 6-person Tier 8 delvings are not. Now, in order to do this fix next week, we have to do what's called a versioning. That means we basically refresh that mission quest. And so what that means is that if you're in progress on the weekly when Wednesday hits, you're going to lose that progress. So make sure you get your Delving Deepest Weekly done before Wednesday's downtime, or else you're going to lose out on the progress you made. Or maybe you're okay with losing out on the progress, in which case you don't actually have to do anything. But if you do want to get that done, make sure you do it before Wednesday's patch, because we're going to version it, and that's going to reset any progress that'll be made. Now, of course, the weekly will reset then that Thursday as well. So, kind of a short week for the Delving Deepest Weekly here this week. But it is going to fix a pretty important bug that we're looking to correct. So, that's good. We have some bug fixes too. A little bit of cosmetic fixes with Halglease, the Guardian Barter Vendor at Glan Frag, the Loyal Samwise Gamgee Loyal Attendant housing item that was part of the Mitgo promotion recently, was giving you some fish that, due to a lack of recipes, would need to be eaten raw, which of course is not something that Samwise Gamgee is a proponent of. So we are going to be fixing that. So you will now be able to get a fish that you can, in fact, cook. The Farmer's Fair Quest Missing Things is now going to be counting toward the daily wrapper. The Steed of the Eldar items received from the Adventurers and Travelers loot boxes are now going to be correctly bound to account and be able to be disenchanted. This does not correct Steed of the Eldar items that you've already obtained from Adventurers and Travelers loot boxes. So the ones you've already obtained, there's really nothing we can do to fix that, unfortunately. But ones going forward will now correctly bind to account and be able to be disenchanted. We're also working on some collection panel bugs. Information on where to acquire the following cosmetic pets is being updated. That would be the Spotted Jerboa, Copper Netherhound, Buff Donkey, Formal Corgi, Toffee Goat Kid, Mottled Crabben, Ashen Eagle, Copper Goat, Spotted Pig, Two-Toned Sheep, and the Red Gecko. We're doing basically a bunch of typo and other bug fix related work for the collection panel. We're fixing an issue with the Rovanian sub-menu that'll now have a scroll bar if it's too tall for the game client. This is impacting people with smaller monitor resolutions in particular. And then I get to a bunch of stuff that I know may or may not be in the build. Is there anything I want to mention here? Well, I could mention the following 6 items are going to get fixed eventually. I just don't know if they're going to be in next week. That would be Tokens of Heroism properly advancing the weekly tasks limit, fixing an issue that could turn certain active ally enemies hostile when landscape difficulty is active, properly scaling Warsteed power in mounted combat, the power trait now following its correct rank progression in mounted combat, reputation accelerators now properly applying to the Path of Valar. These are specific to the rep accelerators from the Lotro store. The Epic Coin Flip emote's going to now have its proper tooltip. Alright, now back to the notes that I know is going to be in the build. Well, I think is going to be in the build. The Pelennor Ambusher's armor set will now work as expected for burglars. And items from Etten Moors that were placed into player banks that were throwing a string table error when added to bank inventories is going to get corrected. Otherwise, the main impetus of Update 36.2 is to get us ready for some things that are going to be happening in the near future. That includes some kind of change lists and things that we're adding to the game build to support the upcoming 7th season of the Legendary Items reward track. The LI7 debuts August 16th at 10 a.m. Eastern. And then we're also, in this build, putting in some changes to support the upcoming Farmers Fair, which debuts August 17th. In case you can't guess, that means we probably won't have an update between now and August 17th, which is why it's getting in this build. So the Farmers Fair is going to debut 10 a.m. Eastern on August 17th and run until 3 a.m. Eastern on September 7th, and we got some new rewards. That means, I can't show them off for you because they're not in the build yet, but they will be. And the new rewards will include a Blazing Firmament character cosmetic, Steed, and Warsteed cosmetics. So a slate of cosmetics, Steed, and Warsteed cosmetics called Blazing Firmament. A Blazing Firmament centerpiece housing decoration, and a Firefox Bandit cosmetic pet. So all that stuff you'll be seeing more about in the coming weeks. We're also adding a change, so small and medium essence and tracery carryalls will be able to hold up to 400 of any essence, tracery, or enhancement rune. We're able to up the number there. And large essence and tracery carryalls are going to be able to hold up to 1,000 of any given essence, tracery, or enhancement rune. So that's what we got for update 36.2 so far. There may be, like I say, there may be some things that I just said that won't make it into the build because we've got some things happening this weekend. There may be a few things that get added that I'm not aware of that'll come in over the weekend and that'll get added to the notes ahead of Wednesday. So, but that'll be taking place during Wednesday's downtime. Now, I will warn you, the next bit of news is a little rough. And that is that we have got, let me see if I can find it. Where is it? There we go. So we have gotten a big old downtime, one of our longest ever, maybe, downtimes, next Wednesday, August 2nd. So the reason it's going to be so extensive is not so much update 36.2, but we have to bring everything down for an extended period of time so that we can do the updated Lotro store and bring it to live. The reason everything needs to be down is the Lotro store interconnects with so many different kind of things, up to and including like the website. that all of that needs to be brought down for an extended period of time. And because we're working with various partners on this downtime, in addition to our own work, we need a very, very large downtime window. So I'm actually going to be getting word out about this today. We're going to post the downtime notice today for next Wednesday. Because we're going to be going down at midnight. Game will be brought down at midnight on Wednesday, August 2nd. So as Tuesday rolls into Wednesday, the game will be brought down. And the current estimate is that we will be up around 7 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, August 2nd. So yeah, 19 hours of downtime set to do this deployment and update to the Lotra store. Also today I'm going to be putting up an article on Lotra.com that shows some of the features of the updated Lotra store. You've seen that perhaps already on Bullroar, but I'll have some basic information about that later today. But let me go over a few things. So, a couple of known issues that we already know heading in that are going to be user-facing, as they would say. And that is that saved credit card payment sources that you might have deleted from the old, or the current, soon-to-be old, Lotra store thing. If you deleted a payment method after June 23rd, there's a pretty good chance you're going to need to re-edit your payment sources to delete it again when the updated Lotra store arrives next Wednesday. We also know that if you use Amazon Pay, it is not going to be working correctly for recurring subscriptions. It'll work correctly for all other purchases, but not your recurring subscription, aka not your VIP. So don't use Amazon Pay for your VIP under the new Lotra store. And the other big piece is that particularly old Game Time cards are not going to be working when the updated Lotra store comes back up. Now, the reality is that we have not done any Game Time cards for at least 6 or so years. With one exception, that being there was some kind of AAA. Yeah, we did some kind of promotion with AAA over the past 6 years. And that did include some Game Time cards. But those had an expiration date. And any old Game Time cards, this would be basically anything pre-SSG, although I guess there was some of that very first Mortarex pack as well, are not going to be functioning when the updated Lotra store debuts on August 2nd. My suggestion would be, why did you hang on to it for 6, 7 years, 8, 10, 12 years or whatever? But given that, maybe you did, you want to use it before next Wednesday in order to be able to fully take advantage of those old Game Time cards. It may be possible in the reasoning for this is not because we want to be mean or anything. It's that the updated store does not support Game Time card tech. We can't offer Game Time cards under the new infrastructure. So that's something that we would like to bring to the store in the future, but we can't promise that that's going to happen. So if you have any old Game Time cards, use them up before Wednesday. The other thing that I know that's caused some consternation in the community is about community codes. It was probably not a wise decision on my part, but generally when I gave out community codes, I did not put an expiration date on them. These would be things like maybe the Corgi pets and some of the community loot list items, old 100-point codes that I gave to streamers, things like that. I think in the future we're going to have to add expiration dates to this stuff to prevent the consternation that has been caused in the community by some rumors which are in fact true, which is that under the new Lotra store, most of the community, specifically the community codes that I've given out, other codes will be fine, but specifically the community codes that I've given out, and Game Time codes, because that's a separate issue, are not going to function under the new store. So what that means is I'm going to have to recreate lists of all these. I'm going to have to redo all the spreadsheets of codes for the community loot list items and giveaway points codes that I've had. Now, there's a chance that it may be just fine. We have some importing work that's taking place, but we don't know. We can't really. It's probably. Don't know if it's going to work. So if you have any old community loot list codes or whatever, you might want to use those up before Wednesday. Now, that's less of an issue, though, because I am making new ones under the new storefront. And so I can just get you a replacement. So ultimately, if you do in the future here run into an issue with an old community loot list code I gave you, something like that, just hit me up on the forums and I'll get you a new code. It's going to take a couple of weeks, though, to rebuild all those codes out in our database and get everything up and running. So ideally, use them up. Don't hang on to it for years and years and years. In the future, I'm probably going to have to put an expiration date on it to prevent this kind of issue from happening. But for now, if you end up with needing a replacement code for a community loot list item, just hit me up after the new store launches, and within a couple of weeks I should be able to get you a replacement code. So yeah. No, sorry, I've got red on my monitor and I can't actually. Martin714. We do not support gifting under the old store or the new store, so we're not going to be supporting gifting anytime soon. We've talked about that in the past, but once you allow gifting, it becomes very much prone to fraud. It gives bad actors a reason to hack accounts, because they can clear out your points total with gifted items and then send it to alts that they can then do other nefarious things with. And I know that a lot of people would like to be able to gift, and that is something that we may be able to offer in the future, but it's not something that the current store supports. It's not something the new store will support, and it's something that we could perhaps do in the future with very specific security concerns addressed. Generally being something similar to the way Steam does it, which is you have to specify who you're giving a thing to at the time of purchase. But the current store and the new store doesn't support that technology. So maybe it's something we can do in the future, but it's not something we can do now. The days of just being able to buy a code and have a free-floating code out there very quickly coming to an end throughout everything. Up to and including us, which we haven't been able to support it for a while. Operating with a new mic stand? No, I'm actually doing what I shouldn't be doing, which is I've got this mic about 1.5 feet away from my face today. I do want to do something about it, but I don't know. I was looking at Amazon. Mic stands are like $60. I don't feel like spending $60 on a new mic stand, and I kind of am not happy about my rig in multiple ways. Frankly, this headset is busted. I don't know if you can see that hole there. But I need new tech. I'm going to have to spend some number of hundreds of dollars on a new headset, new microphone, and all the rest. And so I'm kind of rethinking about, well, what can I do to maybe just make this easier on myself? I haven't really figured out what I want to do yet. I might get a new mic stand. I might just get a headset, like a higher quality headset instead, and try that, because that would be a lot more convenient. Then that would mean I won't have my mic stand in my face covering the monitor all the time. Yeah. But that's the current stand. So if it sounds a little echoey today, maybe not as good as usual, that's why, because I've got it on the wrong kind of mic stand. It's just too far away. It's a full arm's length. Well, half an arm's length from my head. All right, let me go through chat. Session play quests also not counted on your character. I will have to see if this fixes that as well. That's a lot of quests, Squariendus. Guayrendus, 9,180 quests completed. That's a lot of quests. Yes. Also, Maffer, you're right. We've got a busy 6 months here in Lotro because we've got update 37 arriving. Update 38 is going to be our expansion, and so we got a lot happening there with Umbar and things that people are aware of. We have River Hobbits coming. We got the Mariner class coming. Got all sorts of stuff that's going to be happening. So it's going to be a very, very busy 6 months for sure. I'm going through chat before I move on to other things. I think I already addressed Tellurian's question about will all codes expire soon, aka older expansions, otherwise acquired codes. The only codes that may / probably will / dunno are the community codes that I've been given out. Other kind of and game time cards are no longer going to be functioning as well. All other codes should carry over just fine. And if you run into an issue, get in touch with customer support. But it should work. Can I talk about the stat squish? A lot of people saying it's not happening at all, which I think is not correct. That is correct, that it is happening. What is not happening is the specific piece that debuted last week on Bull Roar that we walked back. I would have to do some forum searching to get the specifics on that, which I suppose I could do, but ultimately most of the stat squish is going to be happening. Just the piece that we talked about last week that is not functioning is not happening. Where is that? So we've reverted most of the main stat changes, as we need more time to be able to support it through proper itemization. However, the general stat crunch about numbers going down across the board, balance of the game level over level being smoothed out, monster damage going up just a little bit, along with player healing, both relative to the player's overall morale pool. The level sliding tables are being updated to be a bit more aggressive, to adjust for the fact that over-level differences in stats across the game are now smaller. It means that fighting mobs above your level will now result in a small bonus to their damage and mitigation for each level of difference, but we're reducing the automatic miss chance that those tables applied, so the mechanic will only kick in once monsters are considerably like 6+ levels above you. And none of this will have any impact when you're fighting enemies at or below your level. But we did revert most of the main stat changes, as mentioned. We did do another pass on tweaking gearing ratios this week on Bull Roar. We did that the figured stats gained from Vitality and Fate have both been reduced for all classes, as these stats now operate at a higher ratio compared to the other main stats. They were over-contributing to figured characteristics. This should generally just keep their overall contribution similar to what it was. We've also added in this week's... I said Lomania, I think, earlier, because I've been thinking DDO, because we just launched our X-Pack pre-order this week. Bull Roar, if I didn't say that. Do some work on PvMP, that being free players will get 50% morale from having full Audacity equipment worn. This is because the stat crunch lowers player damage more than it lowers monster player damage. So the 50% morale bonus will keep the ratio of monster player damage to free morale where it was pre-stat squish. And then monster player morale and healing values have been adjusted as well as part of that patch. So that is what's going in for Update 37. When is Update 37? Well, next week we're talking about Update 36.2, so it's a little bit early to say. But we're currently targeting Update 37 for I guess I would say the latter half of August. I don't want to be more specific than that at this point because it's still being worked on. But something like the latter half of August is the expected ETA for Update 37. All right. Yeah, so one last thing about that downtime, or at least one last thing that I can think of for the downtime, is that this isn't just the game. This means the website is going to be down, the forums are going to be down, the launcher news feed's going to be down. So during this period, you're going to want to pay attention to either Facebook, Twitter, or Threads. Yes, Threads. And we'll be keeping things up to date. If we need to adjust any time, if we are able to open up early, I don't think we're going to be able to, but if we theoretically are able to open up early, we'll have all that on social media. Anything we need to get out is going to be on Twitter, Facebook, Threads on Wednesday, August 2nd, because the website and the forums and the launcher newsfeed are going to be down as part of the work to do this. So. I have not heard of any plans to put the Mordor Ultimate Fan Bundle back in the store. You just want the mounts, Gamecast Collective. I've passed along that there are items in there that people would like to see. We'll see if maybe at some point in the future we could do that, or if we could perhaps break out some of those items and offer them separately in the future. Lyron1986 wants to know, what are the circumstances requirements to meet for streamers to receive community codes to then give away on their channels? I don't have a hard and fast rule on it, but in general, I give codes to people for larger events that are promoted on the forums and elsewhere. Like if you're just doing something for your kinship, I ain't giving you free points for it. But if you're doing, say, a Weatherstock or Spring Festival concert, if you're doing some kind of big event that is not just a kinship and friends thing, but is being promoted across your brand, as it were, on social media and the forums, then I'd be happy to kick you some codes for that. Otherwise, I tend to give them to the largest streamers and content creators and people who stream regularly on our channel on LoTroStream. I tend to give out like 100-point codes for those folks. Now, my goal is not to subsidize someone's success on the stream. It's to supplement the work that they're already doing. So there have been times in the past where someone maybe has been a little over-enthusiastic and wanting me to fund their codes. It's like, can I have 100 codes a week? Because that's the only reason people are watching my Twitch stream. No is the answer to that. I'm not here to inflate your Twitch numbers by letting you give things away to everyone, and that's the only reason people are watching. But if you do have a regular audience, if you do have a larger audience, or if you do have a specific event going on, then I'd be happy to kick you some smaller point codes that you can use to incentivize people in chat and get people talking a little bit and what have you. It gets a little blurry because I have at various times over the years been willing to help out, say, a few Discords, maybe a few websites that are larger that want to do some kind of giveaway. So it's not a hard and fast rule, but one of the things I've been trying to do really the past year or so is not fund private Discords. It's something I've been very cautious about wanting to get into because there's a lot of competition in the LoTro community, particularly in the past year or so, to get people to their Discord rather than other people's Discords. And some of those Discords have felt that the way to be successful is to get me to fund constant point code giveaways on their Discords. And I can't really support that. The other way, you can get points through things that I do as well. And Extra Life is another way that we often do points code giveaways. But I guess I would say in general, if you've got a good reason to do some kind of points giveaway, just get in touch with me on the forums. Let me know what you have going on. Let me know where it's promoted or what you're going to do to promote it. And if it fits general criteria, I'd be happy to help you out. And it doesn't always have to be points codes either. Let's say maybe there's a thing on the community loot list that's like a cosmetic item, and you got some kind of cosmetic contest that you're doing on your server. And you plan to advertise it on the forums and all the other kind of thing. I'd be happy to get you some codes for that. I tend to be pretty generous. I tend to try to opt to be more generous rather than less. The only thing I'd try to be cautious of is, like I say, I don't want to fund people's live streams on an ongoing basis. And I don't want to fund your private kinship Discord or something like that. Martin, that's not a bad idea about having some kind of system to deposit writs into a kinship house purchase so people can add some of their own writs into some sort of deposit account until the required amount is achieved. That seems like something that might be possible. On the Dungeons and Dragons Online side, there is that kind of system in place. There is a one-way guild kind of balance that you can do over on the DDO side to help fund airships, both with Plat and Astral Shards, which is their equivalent of Mithril. And so you can deposit that in. Now, once you deposit it, you can never take it out, ever. So it's you just have to be aware that once in, it stays in whether it gets used or not. But it is something that does exist there, so perhaps that's something we could bring to Lotro in the future. Interesting, Agent Brigman, about Alt F10 no longer launching a flashlight at night. Do you think that is something you should submit a bug report for? I would say yes on that. That's interesting. I have not heard that until now. Which leads me to think, yes, it would be a great thing to have a bug report on. And if you want to kick me the bug report number as well, I'd be happy to directly approach the team with that one. That's a weird one. I hadn't heard that yet. Any plans in the future to do a level squish? No immediate plans to do something like that. I mean, the idea of maybe someday doing it, I don't want to tie our hands on it, but there's definitely no plan to do any kind of level squish anytime soon that I'm aware of. If anything, we're going to be increasing the level cap, not squishing it. If or when the main stat change comes, would you change all the items that you get while leveling to work with it? All is a loaded word, but yes is the answer to that. The goal would be to make sure that itemization retains its relative power balance based on any main stat changes that take place. Yes, also that does mean no hopping into DDO while you wait on August 2nd, because that game is also going down for the same 19 hours. Expansion is U38, so later in this year, maybe sometime in November. I can't give anything like a hint as to a release date, but yes, Update 38 is the expansion. Interesting. Someone is saying that the with the Alt F10 flashlight issue, that may be related to an NVIDIA overlay change. I have run into a similar issue back in the day with the GeForce experience, where I had something mapped to my keyboard that ended up getting pounced on by the GeForce experience. Every time I pressed it, it would call that up rather than the thing I wanted to do in Lotro. And I had to remap my keyboard, or actually eventually get rid of the GeForce experience to deal with that one. So, do I foresee the high numbers on Quest Character XP and Total Character XP being reduced in the future? That sounds like a level squish to me, which I don't think I see us doing. But in theory, I suppose, from a practical matter, you know, as long as the end result was the same in terms of pace of leveling, you could definitely play with the numbers, right? Rather than needing 1 million XP, you could just decrease it by a factor, by 10, you know, a factor of 10 and make it 100,000 XP. And then, instead of rewarding 100,000 XP, a quest would award 10,000 XP or whatever, right? So you could theoretically do something like that. Although I've not heard of any plans to do that. Hoppa Joel, this will be Wednesday, August 2nd, that the game's going to be down for an awful long time. Alright, well, I've got a few more bits I wanted to get to before... Gosh, how's it 12:38 already? Alright, a couple of bits of news here. We do have a 25% skirmish mark boost. That goes through July 30th, being shut off on the 31st at 3 a.m. Also next week, starting on Thursday, Hopnanigans returns. That kicks off at 10 a.m. Eastern on August 3rd and runs through August 6th. And then also a heads up for not next week, but the week after, as long as I've got my information correct, and that is the Curators coming back. So the Curator will be returning on August 9th at 10 a.m. Eastern and going through August 16th. And that's a short look at the calendar we have. Otherwise, I think I pretty much covered all the news that I can think of. Like I said, we had a really busy week on Bull Roar this week. That'll be ending within a few hours here. So there is just a few more minutes to get things done on Bull Roar. Let me actually check one thing. I don't currently see another Bull Roar scheduled, but I am sure there will be one. So we'll have to just stay tuned on that. I don't think it made it into our public calendar yet, but or our internal calendar yet. But I would expect to see another Bull Roar here before we go live. And if that's true, I'll let you know. Yes, I'm aware it was quite the debate taking place on the forums this week, but we kept close attention to it, and we, you know, are mindful of your feedback on it, and we've read it all. We're continuing to read it all, and we'll see what we can do.
Campsite might have belonged to anyone.
Just because it bears the signs of being a Corsair camp does not mean it was made by Be'lakor. Anyone could have come ashore here. Do I need to remind you we saw him die aboard the Night Jewel? He could not escape from the dead, and did not. It beggars belief, Stampion. Yeah, let me get a second opinion on that.
Gimli is right.
Oh, okay.
This camp might have been made by anyone.
Not technically true. I didn't make it, and I know that for an absolute fact, so it could not be made by anyone. Be'lakor did not leave the deck of the Night Jewel alive, but this too can be true. It may not matter.
Be'lakor need not have survived. to inspire those who believed in his purpose.
Is it not possible he might have become in death more of a symbol than he could have remained in life? A man can be slain, it is more difficult to destroy that for which he stood. What if someone had taken his place? What if someone adopted the name and appearance in an attempt to rally the heirs of Castamere? And I believe we've actually seen that in the past as well. Alright, so now I need to talk to Baranor in the center of Arnok. Okay. The River Hobbit race does not package with Before the Shadow, but the way it'll be is we'll have more information about this as we get closer to actually doing it, but the method by which you acquire river hobbits will include access to parts of the Before the Shadow story experience. It basically is going to be whatever was posted on Bull Roar this week. I can't think of... I would have to look that up. I don't have it handy, nor do I know it all in my head. But the idea is that if you're going to start a River Hobbit, you need to have stuff to run, and it's going to lead you into the Epic Book and allow you to do that. So some amount of the Before the Shadow content is going to get wrapped into the River Hobbit bundle purchase that happens. Ian McClear wants to know about the stat squish. How will it impact the early levels, like, say, 1 to 5 to 10? Simple scaling could do funny things when the stats are so single. That's true. That's true, but it should be largely taken care of. I think the general idea is the changes are far fewer at that level than they are when you get... Whoops. When you get a little later on. So the overall impact is just significantly less. Okay, let me get back to where I'm trying to go. That's what happens when I pay too much attention to chat. Sorry. Let me take care of this. Mandalare, I would imagine that any kind of stat squish work that would impact the LI reward track would also take that into account. So whatever stats were relevant to that work would be done to make it... I mean, the goal is not really to change anything, it's just to make it easier to read. So... you know, numbers are relative based on... Well, numbers are absolute, but the impact of the numbers is relative based on what it is that they represent. And what they represent is expected to stay the same.
How can I be of service? Would you do something for me?
Talk to... Please do not direct staff to ping me live on the air. That would not be an appropriate thing to put into chat. Also, I won't see it, because I'm focused on the stream. Alright.
What have you discovered? Did Balachor survive the war?
We recount that Baranor. We recount to Baranor what we discovered, and what Legolas had to say about the fallen leader of the heirs of Castamere. He nods. Aye, an impostor could cause trouble for King Elisar and for Gondor just as easily as Balakor might have done. We'll remain alert for any who appear, and I trust you'll do the same as you continue south and westward to the crossings of Eroi. There are several small villages beyond the Eroi that may foster similar sentiments as those here in Arnok. Good fortune go with you. So we're traveling to the crossings of Eroi, southwest of Arnok, in King's Gondor. Okay. So let us do that then. Hello, Lady Glacial.
These are the crossings of Erwi, where Castamir the Usurper perished long ago.
During the King's Strife of Gondor, when the rebellion was at last ended and the rule of the kingdom restored. But kings and stewards rule from distant castles and towers, and our people need the blessing of nearer protectors. So, I and other good people of Lebanon float baskets on the river in memory of the 5 sisters who protected this land in days gone. Some folk believed they were only a myth, but they're wrong. River maidens they were, caring and understanding, but one was changed by an evil in the waters. Castamir the Usurper perished here long ago, but his rage remained.
The blood spilt in these waters.
The Lady of
during the King's
Iri
strife
was
changed
infected
the
by
Lady
that
of
anger.
Iri.
It is a good story so far as it goes. A little unbelievable, I think.
What?
You say Angbor directed that the armor of the usurper be sent to Pelagia for safekeeping?
If someone were trying to convince others they were Castamir's successor, or pretending to be Be'lakor, they might make use of artifacts such as the armor or weapons that once belonged to the usurper. We should make sure the armor came to Sirgon as Angmor intended. But Elisar also wanted us to help the people. Will you see Glacial safely back to her home? Ghibli and I will meet you in Glenaeth when you return, and we will proceed together on to Pelargir.
If you wish to be of use, you can oppose the dangers to be found between here and Halak.
All right. So I think we are going to probably call it here, because we're heading over to Halak. It's probably a good place to call the show, as it were. Mordrill, that's the question about improving game performance in Minas Tirith before battle is really beyond the scope of something I can quickly answer here on stream. Probably one of the easiest things you can do is kick down your graphics. Lower the draw distance if you need to. Oh, Ryan can also confirm that there is another Bull Roarer planned for next week. So, yes, I figured there would be, and it just wasn't on the calendar I was able to see, but we do have another Bull Roarer planned there. Alright, thanks everyone for watching Court of the Rings. You can find this over on Twitch and YouTube as an archive as well. I'll be back next week with a whole lot more, and we also have been adding, I should mention, let me take a minute to mention that thank you Agent Brigman for streaming before Court of the Rings. We now do have a show as a lead-in to Court of the Rings here, this by Agent Brigman from 10 a.m. to noon on Fridays. And then also as I just closed the tab instead of clicked over to it. We also have a new show this week. This would be... I'm trying to get the name correct. Hello. You can take a look at Kidius Maximus here. Adventuring Back to Rohan by Mei Lung, and that is a brand new show here that's going to be 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday evenings. So Mei Lung is a brand new streamer for Lotro Stream, 9 to 11 p.m. on Tuesdays, Agent Brigman 10 to noon on Friday. So you can find the full schedule over at twitch.tv/LotraStream. Have fun, everyone, and I will talk to you again soon.
Lizzie
Bye-bye.
says bye.
Yep, Lizzie says bye for the week.